Good morning, everyone. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. Do you like knives? Well, I've got a treat for you. I have a friend who is a master knife builder. He lives locally. I've known him for years. His name is Gary Bird of Bird Legacy Knives. Known him for about 30 years. We met on a mountain biking trip. He built this knife for me, which is a Tom Brown tracker style knife. And today we're going to go up to his house and get a look at what he does and some of the knives he produces, take a walk through on and see how this all happens. Let's go do it. All right, so here's the backstory. Why am I going to talk to someone about knives and posting and making a video and putting it on my Medical with Mike Jeep channel? Well, here's the thing. I don't think there's a Jeeper out there, especially a male, that does not respect a good knife, right? We all have cool knives. For some reason, guys like knives. I don't understand. But what Gary does is pretty damn cool from a manufacturing standpoint. It's all artisan crafted knives. He got into this as a hobby. He's going full-time soon. And I just think it's really cool. I believe that all of my Jeep friends out there who follow me on YouTube and Instagram are going to really enjoy seeing the content and how Gary has developed his craft. So I thought it'd be a great idea to go up and hang out with Gary for a bit and see what he does. All right, we are here at the home of Gary Bird and Bird Legacy Knives. Let's go in and meet Gary. Gary.
Hey Mike, how are you doing? It's good to see you.
Good. So nice little shop you got going here.
Thank you.
So Gary and I have been friends for what I determined like 30 years.
Yeah.
What was it? So Peak Adventures.
Yep.
That was 99, 2000.
Yeah, a couple
you went
of
to
Moab
Moab
trips, yeah.
Did you do a couple?
Two in a row.
Wow.
Yeah.
It didn't scare you off the first time?
No.
So I used to work for a company or a program called Peak Adventures at Sac State, and we would guide trips to Moab, Utah for mountain biking. And Gary was one of our customers. We were probably in our 30s back then or so, right? And Ken, all those guys. And so we went to Moab for like a 7-day adventure. Got to do all kinds of mountain biking stuff. Known Gary ever since. Gary went on, and you've worked in IT for years, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got into making knives. And I think, if you watch my Instagram channel, I'll pull this out of my pocket. This little knife here is one that he made for me probably about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Based on a Tom Brown tracker style knife that I fell in love with back in the late 90s. And when Gary got into making knives, I said, Gary, can you make me one of these? So he did. And pretty cool little knife. But he has gone on to build and make some knives that are just off the hook. So I want to come up, see what you do, see what the craft is all about, and talk a little bit about. So tell me, Gary, how did you get into making knives?
I was hanging out. I have a buddy who is a machinist, and his garage is full of mills and lathes. And I was hanging out, and I go, it'd be cool. I go, one of the only things I have left from my grandpa is a knife he made. I go, I'd love to make one. And he threw a piece of high carbon steel at me and said, well, get to work. And that was it. I made that one all by hand with files, and then after that, any knife maker who's gone down that trail knows you just start buying tools and you get addicted to it.
So when did that start? When did you start making knives?
2017.
2017.
Yeah, not too long ago, but
No. Now you got a little famous for a little while, right?
a little bit.
Why?
Well,
Tell me about that.
A producer from Forged and Fire contacted me through my Instagram. And I thought it was a fraternity brother playing a trick on me, years after college. So I said, yeah, I'll talk to you on the phone. Well, it turns out it was a real producer from Forged and Fire. And she set up an interview with one of the other directors. And I had to do show him a bunch of knives and do an interview and kind of lied about, I've done Damascus before and all this stuff. And they picked me and said, okay, we're throwing you on the show.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And I haven't been able to actually watch that episode because it was locked down. I didn't have a subscription, I think.
Yeah.
But you made like a sword or something in there, right?
Yeah, in the final. So this was the Summer Forging Games in season 7.
Right.
So I was on for 2 hours.
What year was that?
It came out 2020.
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah. Luckily, we filmed it before COVID, so we didn't have to wear masks. But yeah, I was up and down. First round, I bombed. I called my wife. I'm like, I want to go home. I gotta get out of here. Next one, throwing knives, got second. I'm back. I'm okay. Next round, terrible. And then I made it to the final because I had enough points. It was a different format than they usually do. I had to come home and make a sword. My sword won the final.
Jeez.
So that popped me up into second because they gave money first through third. So it was an amazing experience.
Where did they film that
at? Just out of New York.
at? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Just a nondescript warehouse you would never know.
Yeah, yeah.
Walk in, there's cameras everywhere and forges and everything. Yeah.
So knives are a funny thing because I think guys like knives, right? I mean, what do you know about that obsession with men and knives? And I know that there's ladies out there too that like knives too. Don't get me wrong, but men are obsessed with knives. I have a bunch of them, but that fuels your fire, so to speak, right? I mean, what is it about knives that guys really dig?
I don't know. You know, back I remember I started mowing lawns in 6th grade, and first thing I did when I got some money is buy my first pocket knife. I still have it. So it's just, you know, it was in my family. We camped a lot, hunters and fishermen. And, you know, if you do anything like that, you have to have a knife either on you or around you, or you're using it all the time for different things. So people get obsessed with folding knives or hunting knives or, you know, culinary knives. I make a lot of chef's knives now because I like that it's something you use every single day. And it doesn't matter, you know, husband, wife, doesn't, you know, kids. People are always using their chef's knives, so that's one thing. I really like making those because almost anyone can appreciate them.
I've seen a big comeback with like the big meat cleavers and stuff like that.
Yep.
The guys are really digging that and chopping up their meat and stuff.
I just sent one out. Big meat cleaver, yeah.
So Gary's he's been doing a lot of custom knives and mostly kind of for friends and so forth, selling them, so forth, building up a website so that you've been stockpiling. Right?
Yep, I have been.
And so there will be a website live soon so you can pick up a knife from Gary. But you can always reach out to him through Instagram if you want something custom and he's your man. So, so give me a kind of a walkthrough. Like you start with a piece of steel, right?
Yep.
And then it goes into all these other phases, which I have no clue. So why don't you give me a little walkthrough and show me kind of how that works?
Yeah. So you start, I've got a bunch of steel down here. We could grab a piece. So essentially you'd get a piece of steel and you kind of want to size it for what you're making. This would be more of maybe a hunting fishing knife. This is a powdered super steel. It's stainless, but it holds an incredible edge. And you want to, you have to pick the thickness and everything. Some of these I'm going to forge out, some I don't. It depends on the knife I'm making. Mm-hmm. From there, you determine your profile or what the knife's going to look like. Let's say something like this, or this is one I have in production right now. It's a harpoon style knife.
Oh, nice.
So you get that laid out on the metal, cut it out with a metal bandsaw, and then go to the grinder and get your profile honed. So it's just perfect before you start grinding it out.
Nice.
Yep.
And then you're doing all your handles too as well, right?
Yep, I do handles out of, like, this is a micarta, layered micarta handle. But I do natural wood handles. This is a hunting knife. Actually, my buddy used this hunting, and it's got desert ironwood handles.
That's so cool. Yeah, and that in and of itself is a craft. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into picking the wood and, finishing this out. And sometimes, depending on the wood, I'll stabilize it in a heat activated epoxy so that it's impervious to water, holds up better. So there's a lot that goes into not only the knife but the handles. Yeah, and usually for me it's almost a 50-50 time-wise between the blade itself and the handles.
Wow. Yeah. And then you're doing little things like on mine, you did this little, I assume you made that too, right?
Yep, paracord,
The little details.
You got to learn your little knots and get your paracord in there.
Yeah, I have a passion for the knot stuff because, I was working on tugboats for many years in maritime, and what I would do to kill my time out at sea was make bracelets and stuff because you got a lot of downtime. But so, very cool.
This is actually a knife my grandfather made.
Oh, wow.
So he used to just as a hobby, make them out of old saw blades or files. So this one's out of a saw blade. And this was why I call it Bird Legacy Blades, is I thought, what a cool legacy. This is one of the only things I have from my grandfather, and he made it.
Oh, wow.
So this is his legacy
Probably
that
the
I
most
have.
valuable thing in here, right?
Yeah, I love this thing. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have more of these of me out there,
Yeah.
you know, for friends, family. I'd give them away at weddings, but, you know, clients too. But it's something that will live on, you know, that might live on for generations if they taken care of.
So you mentioned something about making them out of files, and I've seen you do that.
Yep.
Do you have any in here that you can show me kind of how that looks like?
I don't have one right now. Those sell right away. It's like people love the file knives.
Look at the Instagram. What he does with old metal and I guess rasp like wood files too is pretty cool. So very neat. So time wise, like starting from here to a finished product. I mean, what are we talking about?
Oh, it's depending on, like, I just made a big giant cleaver. It was my first stainless steel cleaver, and there were complications of that. I probably spent 35 hours on that knife.
Wow.
But a typical knife is 15 to 20 hours. The last 4 or 5 hours is a lot of hand sanding, both the metal and the wood.
Yeah.
So that gets a little tedious.
Do you treat the steel in something, an oil or something, after you're done?
A high carbon blade like this, I actually make an organic wax that's out of beeswax and mineral oil.
Okay.
So I make it, and when someone buys a high carbon blade from me, I send a little tin of this, and it's good for cutting boards or just to put on your blade to preserve it. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. I see the little curio cabinet up there. Tell me about that.
That's the sword that won the final in Forged in Fire.
That is cool.
Yeah.
And the gloves.
And it's so the story behind the gloves is you have whatever you want to use, you bring it to Forged in Fire. They had spare gloves there, but I'm 6'7" and I'm a big giant guy, and I burned holes through the fingers. I go, oh, I need some new gloves, and they didn't have anything that would fit me.
Wow.
So I had to just keep taping the fingers up because I was, you know, you're in a hurry and you're burning your fingers, and so I burned through the leather. I just kept strapping. They thought it was funny. The judges were laughing at me because I kept taping up my fingers.
Yeah, Gary is a tall guy. I'm 6'2", so you can see, you know. And I remember that when we were mountain biking, you had, was it Cannondale?
Yeah.
I remember right?
Yeah.
That's a good memory. And like a 24, 26-inch frame.
Yeah.
Big frame. So anyways,
A lot of seat posts.
Gary's a
sticking
big
out.
guy. But cool. Hatchets and stuff. Have you made some of these too?
Yep. So I'll repurpose them, get old hatchets, and then reshape them. So I kind of did this in more of a Viking style.
Yeah.
But yeah, you cut them out, sand them, and, you know, remount them. I made this just myself out of just a piece of wood. So just fun for camping and goofing around. Yeah. So these are leatherettes. I have 2 different kinds of lasers that I use. I have a fiber laser and a diode. So I can burn into wood. The fiber will burn into steel, so I can put my logos and things on there. And then the diode laser, I can do wood and leather patches and things like that. Yeah. I just finished this chef knife.
Wow.
So that's a epoxy resin and aluminum honeycomb handle, and that's actually a stainless AEBL blade. AEBL stainless was made to use for a razor blade, so it'll take a real fine edge.
Yeah, it looks very thin, huh?
Thin and light. Yeah.
Look at that. That is beautiful.
I really like it. It's the first time using that, making this honeycomb and epoxy resin.
Yeah.
It's a little messy when you grind it. It's kind of powdery. You got to wear some safety for your lungs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about, like, on certain knives, like on cooking knives and so forth, you've got different styles of knives,
Yep.
obviously, like a flat edge and a rounded edge.
Yep.
Chopping knives are different than, you know, I don't know, paring knives, for instance.
Yep,
But
absolutely.
tell me a little bit about the different styles.
So this style, I call this, so a Western chef doesn't have as much curve in the belly. This, I made more as a slicer. If you want to carve up your turkey,
Sure.
you know, Thanksgiving or whatever, you can still give this a good rock, but you want a little bit less curve in the belly if you're going to be just chopping vegetables all the time.
Yeah.
There's a variety of styles I'd like doing the Western chef, and I've started making like nakiris, like the Japanese, that's a Japanese vegetable knife.
Mm-hmm.
Just looks like kind of a small cleaver. Really good for chopping vegetables, scooping them up, putting them in your pot. So yeah, there's all kinds of different styles.
So I was a cook, actually, for a while on tugboats. When you go to work in maritime, if you want to work on a tugboat, the first thing they say is, "Can you cook?" And that's how you get your foot in the door. And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess I can cook." And they say, "Well, do you know how to read?" I'm like, "Yeah." He says, "Well, if you can read, you can cook, because we got cookbooks." So, anyways, I did that for a year, and usually 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off. And what I found was the knives on the boat always sucked. So I would fly around with the knife that I found that I liked the most, and ironically, it was like a cheap Costco knife that I found that I just loved it. Right? It had a good feel to it, and I would pack that thing up and take it with me everywhere from tugboat to tugboat for over a year. So it was just weird that I never thought I would find myself being so attached to this stupid little cheap knife, but it was the one that I liked, and I did a lot of chopping those that month or that year. So
yeah, that's one thing to touch on about if you buy a custom knife, for your kitchen from a maker like me. So most knives that you buy in the store, there's the hardness rating on the steel, and that's the hardness after it's been heat treated. Okay. A typical knife in the store is around 55 HRC. It's a hardness rating.
Is it Rockwell?
Rockwell, yeah, Rockwell rating. So and they make it that way because it makes it easier to sharpen, but it also dulls more quickly.
Yeah.
So these knives come out around 60 to 62 HRC. They're much harder. The blade, the edge lasts longer. It's a little harder to sharpen, but I make sure they have the information like this is the angle I sharpened it at, so they could either themselves sharpen it themselves or take it somewhere and get it professionally done.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So this knife is out of high carbon steel, and I have this is oxidized and this is polished here, super sharp. This is a micarta scales that I put some liners in. But this is more hunting and camping style. I also did a matching ferro rod so you can light your campfire.
So cool.
Yeah. And then this is actually the wax that I make.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So that's the blade wax. Good for cutting boards and your
Does it work on beards too?
I haven't tried it. It does. It works for lip balm.
Yeah.
Because it's just beeswax and mineral oil.
It's probably good for beards.
Yeah. So yeah, I have a lot of different styles that I make. This one's been popular. I've made this in Damascus and sold it too. Yeah.
Yeah. That is so cool.
You got to be getting this polished and having this dark. It's a precise grinding.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see in the camera there, but look at how the reflection happens there on the blade. It's so cool. And I noticed you've gotten a little bit of different logo. That's morphed over the years, right?
Yeah, so that logo was electro etched into there. So I create a stencil and then electro etch that in. Now I have a laser, so I can just laser right into the steel. Cool. Yeah.
Nice.
I like that style, but the laser is so versatile. I can do, the last cleaver I sent out, it was a friend who ordered it because his dad had passed away. His dad had a very unique signature. So I pulled that, he gave me a picture of it. I pulled it into Photoshop, cleaned it up, and then lasered that signature onto the cleaver. There are makers who, you can have your knives like this profile, you could have these jet cut out so that you just get them and then grind them and put handles on them. So every single one I make is unique. I mean, I may never make this exact profile again, right? So I kind of like to just make what I want to make, and then inevitably someone likes it too and buys it. So
Have you ever done like a series of knives? Like, let's say you have a cool design, it's a one-off, but you did like 10 of them, numbered them 1 through 10 or anything like that?
I've never numbered them, but this chef knife, I have done a half a dozen of these because I really like this style. This was my own profile that I designed, so I've been kind of making them, different ones. I'm trying to see. Cool. I can show you. So this is a high carbon chef knife.
Wow, that's cool.
And it's got mosaic pins.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I oxidized the blade with ferric chloride. It kind of helps keep the rust off of it.
Yeah.
You can see there's a differential heat treat. If you see the difference in the oxidation here, I edge quenched this so that this remains a little flexible, so it won't chip or break.
So cool. Nice.
Yep.
So when you retire, you're going to do this full time?
I'm looking to retire either this February or next February and go full time on this. Yeah.
Nice. Do you worry that You know, I mean, it started off as a hobby,
Yeah.
and as you turn it into more and more of a business, do you worry that it's going to become not as fun anymore?
No, the good thing is I'll have a pension, so I'm not pressure. There's no pressure to make a bunch of money, so it's really doing it because I love to do it.
Yeah.
You know, one thing when you work IT, especially I do system-wide grants for the Chancellor's Office, community colleges, and there's never a done, right? It's always maintenance and operation. There's never an end point.
Yeah.
And when you make a knife, you finish it and you go, oh my gosh, I made this. It's finished. There's a satisfaction there. And I like that. Like, that's part of what I like about making these knives.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I talk to a lot of folks who, like I have a friend who's a big YouTuber, and I asked him the same question, like, do you ever fear that it's just going to take away from the fun of it? And his response was that it's not about the adventure. He likes making movies. He loves sitting down and going through and putting together a piece. And we probably know Sean from the Story Till Now. He's one of the largest YouTubers in the Overland channel, and he loves making movies. It does require that he has to go out and get a lot of content, but he likes creating this masterpiece. And so that's why his movies are so good, is that he puts that passion into it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So that's a Nakiri, basically a Japanese vegetable knife. Very traditional style.
Yeah.
This is high carbon. You can see this is a differential heat treat. So this is where the hardest part of the blade is. Yeah.
very neat. I like that handle.
Yeah, those are, you know,
profile on
I like making those. That one's came out pretty good. Olive wood and ebony.
Yeah, it's simple, but it's just kind of elegant.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so you do a stain on that? Is that
No,
how-
no stain. No. Yeah.
Huh.
So I hand sand it, and then typically I put either tung oil or I'll just use the wax that I make and put it on there and then buff it. And that's it.
That is so cool. What do you call this different layering in here? And
So those are liners. Those are like G10 liners that I put in there. I like the accent that, and it's, you know, it's another few hours of gluing and, you know, just that extra step to make it, you know, look custom, and you know, you took some care to put into it.
yeah.
This would be like, I would call this a small, maybe a camp,
Oh yeah.
you know, chef. That you could take it overlanding or wherever. That's olive wood handles and Damascus. So Damascus is basically high carbon, two different kinds of high carbon. One has a lot of nickel in it, so it's shiny, and the other one oxidizes and turns black like that when you dip it in ferric chloride.
That's so cool. Yeah. And what kind of wood?
That's olive wood.
Olive wood. Is that kind of, what are your different woods you use?
I like to stay with more dense woods. If you go something that's not as dense, like walnut isn't that dense. Like I like desert ironwood because it's so dense you don't have to treat it at all. You can polish it to a high sheen and it's almost impervious to water. It's so dense, but it must weigh 3 times what walnut does. So I like using walnut. It's pretty, but I have to stabilize it in a heat activated epoxy in a vacuum chamber. So
Wow.
that adds that's a day of soaking in this vacuum chamber, getting the epoxy in there, cooking it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
A lot of work that goes into these.
it's amazing what you learn about glue and abrasives when you do.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know, the temperature that super glue releases is 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and epoxy roughly 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So, you know, all these, and every kind, I didn't know you could even sand steel before I started. Now I have every kind of abrasive known to man hanging around the garage.
Yeah. Tell me about some of the specialty tools you got around in here. Like, I mean, obviously you got belt sanders and so forth.
Yeah, this is a fan, essential and
That's a
sacrifice.
fan, right? Another fan.
Many fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a
Small
metal
bandsaw.
cutting bandsaw just from Harbor Freight.
Yeah.
This company makes a little stand for it so you can use it. It's made to like cut pipes, but you can
Yeah.
stand it up, and I've got a little foot activated pedal here.
Perfect.
My little light so I can see what I'm doing. Regular little bandsaw. Don't use it a ton. I could cut almost everything I need on that, even wood, so this doesn't get used as much. The buffer, probably the most dangerous tool I have in the garage.
Really?
Yeah. People have, like, knife makers have died
Wow.
buffing things because this spins so fast. It's like 3,700 RPM, and this will grab. It's very effective at polishing, but if it grabs that steel, it will. I've had things shoot out from this buffer, and I never found them again. So I never buff in my flip flops and
No.
wear actual shoes. And I have my best buddy who's over here making knives. He won't use this. It scares him. So you'd think it'd be the saw or the grinder.
Something with a metal
Yeah,
blade,
no,
you know.
this,
No.
this is.
Do you have a name for it?
I like it. So just my buffing buddy, but this is a 4x36 sander. I put a fire glass platen underneath it because it's amazing when you use these, you wear them out quickly. This allows me to do stainless steel. It's basically a knife kiln. This one will heat up to 2,300 degrees. Wow. Stainless steel has to go up to around 1950, 2000, and you have to hold it for around 20 to 30 minutes. So that's hard to do in a regular forge that you forge carbon steel out of because you can't hold a consistent temperature for a long time. It varies all the time. So being able to do stainless, you need a kiln like this. And so this is a 2x72 grinder.
Grinder, I mean.
So when I got second place in Forge and Fire, I won $4,000. And this was $4,000.
So, there you go. Invest in the trade, right?
Invest in the trade. That was with it comes with a base. I bought almost every accessory that goes with it. You have various ways you can use this: tables, different wheels, little small wheel attachments. So this is really, almost every knife maker has one of these. I didn't before Forge and Fire. I was using a little 1x30 from Harbor Freight.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has variable speed for the wheels. You can reverse them. This whole thing will go horizontal, so I can really see what I'm doing.
Very cool.
But
it's nice.
Yeah, this is kind of the heart of.
There's always that one like specialty tool, that you're saving up for. You got to have because it makes your job so much easier.
You see these a lot. Metal fabricators use these a lot too. 2x72.
Nice. Do you typically move the car out when you're working in here?
No. The wife's not always happy about that.
It's all dusty all the time.
I bought a cover, but now I've been lazy. I've been covering it. So it's like, my car's dusty. So you end up doing some car washing.
What impresses me is this is just one bay of the garage and you can do everything in here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool. I mean, I've always thought like, what are some of the hobbies, the jobs or side gigs that you can do in your home? And you don't need a lot of space to do this. And there are a lot of crafts out there that, you can get by with just small space, but you've got a pretty good layout here. It seems like that's kind of all your woodworking and stuff over there. And
Yep.
Very
These
cool.
are all my handle materials that accumulated over the years.
Wow, that's cool.
This one looks like a rainbow trout.
Yeah, it does. Very neat.
These are some of the stabilized woods in here.
Where do you source most of your materials? I mean, you probably got some specialty places.
All over. There's a variety of knife supply stores around. I've had friends say, "Hey, I downed a tree. You want to cut some stuff out of there?" I've gone to Yuma. My parents will spend the winters in Yuma, and there's various markets around there. And I really love Desert Ironwood. It's expensive here, but I can get very good deals down there. I'll buy it in bulk. I'll go into a guy and say, "Hey, I want, $300 or $400 for this stuff." So I, just collect it.
Someone who's looking to get into knife making, what do you tell them?
Oh, you can start slow. There's a guy online, Walter Sorrell. Look him up on YouTube. There's a plethora of videos on there about getting started as a beginner. So you can go to Harbor Freight and get some inexpensive tools that will get you started. I made the winning sword for Forge and Fire on a Harbor Freight grinder before I had the expensive grinder. So you can make nice knives, with cheaper tools. You can save time with the expensive tools, and if you really get into the hobby, then or turn it into a business, you're going to get more expensive tools. But you don't have to go crazy and spend a bunch of money to get into this. You can have a basic forge. I built my first forge for under $100. Simple grinder, get some steel, and go to town. So
And if you think about it, I mean, knife making has been around for how many thousand years?
Yeah, yeah.
And they didn't have these fancy tools back then, so.
Which blows my mind.
Yeah. It's like, how long did that take?
Yeah.
That's cool. In your mind, has there been a knife that you're like, aside from your grandfather's knife, but you didn't make that one, but a knife that you made that stands out as like, that's the knife that has been the best knife I've ever made?
I did a cleaver. A guy in Morgan Hill, his house burned down, and one of the only things that survived, it was total decimation, was this cleaver that had been their family for 100 years. So he sends it to me. It's warped, handle's gone. Obviously, I completely restored it, kept enough of the logo on there. It was a Dexter cleaver from America, and he was gonna pay. I sent it to him, and he goes, "How much do I owe you?" Go, I can't take your money. I'm like, "You lost your house." I spent 20, 30 hours on this thing, but he's now a repeat customer. His brother's bought for me, but that's one of the more special knives that I did, and it was.
It had a lot of.
Everyone around was like,
value
"Oh, you
behind
should
it.
charge him." Like, I can't. I just can't.
The intrinsic satisfaction of that is probably worth more than anything he could ever.
Yeah, and we still text each other and message each other on Instagram. He's just a really cool dude, and
Nice.
that one stands out for me.
That's
for
cool.
sure.
All right, Gary. Well, thank you for the time. Thanks for showing me around. I'm going to hopefully keep an eye on Gary's stuff. The website's coming out soon, sometime in the next
Working on it.
year. Who knows?
Yeah,
But if
give me a couple months.
Yeah, if you got a need for a specialty knife, reach out to Gary, at least through Instagram, and he can point you in the right direction. So, appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Awesome.
Good seeing you.
Thank you.